What is going on, y'all? It is Chef Dre
Dr. Larissa.
and we are back, season one, episode four. And today we are going to be talking about birth control and cancer, or the C word. All right, Dr. Larissa, what are your thoughts?
well, hmm. Well, hello
Wow,
everyone. Thanks for
well, I
tuning
sip
in.
my tea.
What are you having today for your tea?
Oh, by the way, before we get started, so we're definitely, this is the tea, right? This is the tea on the topic. But this is Jamaican Cersei tea today. So bitters.
Okay. Well, I am having moringa tea. Hibiscus tea, I should say. So moringa and hibiscus tea I decided to have today. So
Okay.
that's what I'm going to be sipping on.
Hold
But
on, real quick,
yeah,
before we dive in, because I think it's important. What is or what are the benefits to the hibiscus and moringa tea that you have today?
oh, I mean, first it's just loaded and it feels good to drink something which you know is just loaded with benefits. So let's talk about the hibiscus. It's a powerful antioxidant. It has been shown to support people who are dealing with any type of PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, high blood pressure. It's actually even been studied in cancer research and shown to reduce the risk, but also help in that recovery process when people are combating cancer because it has such a rich antioxidant profile. Fun fact: when women are pregnant, during the pregnancy, they're advised not to drink hibiscus, especially in parts of the world where it's very common. But then at the
Mhm.
end of the pregnancy, they're advised to start drinking it because it can help at that point. So it's very good for maintaining the health of the uterus in general, and then also for ensuring that women have like nice, smooth, safe deliveries. Of course, this is in addition to making sure that your lifestyle is good. And then moringa is just loaded. It is the gift that keeps on giving by God's grace. But it has vitamins, it has minerals, it has all amino acids you need, it has iron. I could keep going, but that's the combo for today.
And that's loaded. And this is just the morning tea. So this is all of the nutrients that you're getting before like
Yeah.
noon.
And I think oftentimes people think that because they want to make sure they're getting nutrients, they need to eat so much. And I have no problem with food, of course, but it's important to be strategic with how you get nutrients into your body. And so before putting any food in my body today, at least, I'm going to have gotten antioxidants from the moringa and the hibiscus. I would have gotten the vitamins, iron, etc., all the nutrients that I believe I need for this morning. And yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, hibiscus is so good for you, and thank you for sharing that. I am having the Jamaican Cersei,
What are
which
what are the benefits? Yeah.
so benefits of Cersei, it addresses gut health, so it helps with bowel movement. It's anti-inflammatory. It's good for your nerves. So like generally anything that is bitter is usually good for like nerves. So it helps with your nervous system. And it also helps with like cholesterol and aids in weight loss. So those are some of the benefits for the Jamaican Cersei tea. Sure,
Wow.
there's more, but just I know those are some of the benefits that I know off the top of my head. And I have been drinking this since I was a little kid.
Wow. So it's something that was just part of your daily routine from even childhood.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
but it's bitter. Did you
Yeah.
say that?
hmm
So do you sweeten it? Do you put agave, date syrup, anything?
No, I really enjoyed the bitterness. In fact, it makes me feel even more healthier when I'm drinking something bitter. I'm like, all right, because there's a saying that we say in Jamaica, what is bitter to the mouth is sweet for the soul,
Mm,
or sweet to the soul. So, you
interesting.
know, and I also just grew up on this. So it's almost like it's an acquired taste, almost like I guess how people would kind of view wine, right? Some people would taste wine, they're like, oh, this is nasty. And then you talk to someone who's an enthusiast and they're like, this is the best thing ever. So that's how I
Wow.
feel about this tea in particular. And generally, I really just, I don't know what it is, but I really enjoy bitter things, especially if I know it's good for you. So like the sour sop bitters that I take, people are like, "Oh my God, this is terrible. How could you?" And I'm like, "It's fine," you know. And I think it's just because I know that it's good for you.
That's huge because that speaks to your mindset. I think mindset is very important and it dictates how we perceive things, whether they're helpful or not helpful. And it also dictates how we tolerate them. So you're able to drink a bitter tea every day, basically because you know that it's good for you, because that's the mindset you have around it.
Yeah, yeah. I believe that being healthy, part of being healthy is it's really a mindset. It's a mind shift,
Mm.
And if you can do the work in your mind, you train your mind, then everything else will follow. So for me, I really it I don't even think twice. I don't even like I forget that it's even bitter. So someone can drink this and they'll probably say it's bitter. For me, I just think it's normal. Like it doesn't even like I don't even taste bitterness, but I know it's bitter.
Wow.
That makes sense.
It does. It does. Absolutely. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. So, this topic, this topic, birth control pills and cancer. Have
Man,
you always known that this was a thing? What are your thoughts? And I guess let me just set the scene by saying the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, recently released a research update, so to speak,
yeah,
and said that the specific finding was that birth control pills have now been have now been categorized, I should say, as group 1 carcinogens.
that's crazy.
So, what are your thoughts?
Hold on, before we go any further, let's define what a carcinogen even is
Okay,
for the
perfect.
people out there, because some people might not have even heard of that. Maybe it's the first time even hearing about a carcinogen.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, it comes from the word carcinogenesis. Genesis means creating or the beginning. And so anything that can produce cancer, which scientifically is called carcinoma,
Mm,
is a carcinogen, right? Because it kicks off that production process for cancer cells in the body. Now, when it comes down to the types of carcinogens, they are not all created the same. So they are grouped depending on how they affect humans. So, group 1 specifically means that there's evidence. It has been studied and confirmed by research, enough at least, to say that there's a causal relationship. There's a cause and effect relationship, meaning if you have exposure to this thing, it could lead to the other thing. And group 1 means it's carcinogenic to human beings. It doesn't mean that they're all the same. So now birth control pills have been added to this category. But I think it's important to just mention a few other things that are
mm,
in this category. Group 1, tobacco, so smoking, whether it's hookah, and I love to mention that because of the background I come from. Hookah, many people don't, they forget that that has tobacco in it. Alcohol, sun exposure, processed meats, so like ham, salami, etc., air pollution, actually, and then even infections such as hepatitis viruses. So they're not all created the same. For example, we know that the most common carcinogen is smoking or tobacco, but it's really a big deal to now know, wow, birth control pills have now been added to this group 1 stratification.
wow, that's good. I think we forget, or I think we don't realize how much of the things that we consume actually have, have like some form of carcinogen. I think that's interesting, right? Like, there's so much that we're consuming out there that we don't even know, right? I believe that even down to like some of the pots that we use, cookware, even some of the clothes I'm hearing now are even carcinogenic, right? Is that a word? I feel like that's a word.
Carcinogenic, yeah.
Carcinogenic, yeah. Um, yeah, so I think that's the world is evolving where we have so much more access to information and so much more research, right? As time goes on, more and more research is coming out. What do you take, or what's your take on all of this, right? Because I think for a lot of people, the the intent is there, or even they really want to do and eat healthy and live a healthier life, but I've seen some people or talked to some people, and a lot of them are saying it's like they're overstimulated by the information because they're like, oh, it's like almost everything that I now do is bad for me. So what do I do? So my question is, what's your recommendation for someone who, all of this information is getting thrown at us now these days, right? There's this can give you cancer, that can give you cancer, this, that, like you wearing this, like there's so much out there. How do you deal with all of this? What's your recommendation?
No, that's so true. And honestly, for anyone who feels that way, I can understand because we are learning every day as scientists, as physicians. The research is evolving every single day. There's a new headline. And it's important for our generation, it's important for younger people to have these conversations because colorectal cancer, for example, most of the new cases are being diagnosed in people who are under 50 and even closer to under 45. And if it used to be a thing that someone has cancer when they're a bit older and seasoned in life, so to speak. But what can you do strategically? I think what you do starts with first understanding cancer biology.
Mm,
I think that's where it starts. What is a cancerous cell? So normally the cells in our bodies, they naturally are meant to divide and grow. Each cell will divide into two, grow to a certain level, divide again, and keep going. That's how we regenerate ourselves. Now, if the atmosphere in the body is unhealthy or toxic, what can happen is that that normal cell division, one into two, two into four, four into eight, etc., now becomes one into 50, 50 into 1,000. That's just an example. But there's an issue with the natural division or natural replication of cells. And what is it that causes it? So, being strategic, knowing the most common causes of cancer is important. The most
mm,
common cause is smoking, tobacco. And the amazing thing is the moment you decide to stop smoking and you continue to live through your life, the sooner you stop, as soon as you stop, you start to reduce your risk immediately of now having cancer. So if you feel like, oh, I didn't know if I was smoking for the last 20 years or the last 10 years, okay, just decide that you're going to stop. And some people actually do need some help with stopping smoking because it's an addiction. And that's fine as long as you stop. The sooner you stop, the better. So, smoking is number one, but that's what has been talked about for such a long time. And it doesn't only cause lung cancer. I think it's important to state that it causes so many different types of cancer. Just about every type of cancer in the body can, in some way, shape, or form, be attributed to smoking. Because what it does is it's literally you're in inflaming your body. Inhalation of the smoke, just think
mm,
of all you're pulling in, the asbestos, the nicotine, all the other ingredients that are in a cigarette or hookah that are not mentioned to you. You're literally saying, I want to inhale all potential carcinogens today. Unfortunately, that's what happens. And that's why it's so easy. And it's a habit, right? So people do it for some time. And then unfortunately, it can lead to it. So you see the emphasis there on the lifestyle. Now, immediately after smoking, the next category is actually obesity. Obesity is a big driver of cancer in the body. This is why it's important for everyone to have an optimal weight or an optimal size. I don't believe that we're all meant to be the same. You and I have very different structures, so to speak. We have very different body frames. So if we weighed the same, it would look very different. But we can assess our body fat percentage. We can assess our waist circumferences. There are different metrics and markers we use for obesity to determine whether or not someone is indeed obese, in addition to the BMI. So
And
obesity,
then there's also like a, I'm sorry to cut you off, but there's a natural, I'm sorry, not a natural, there's like a national average. Now, I feel like that varies though, because what might be, I guess, like what might be the average here is obviously not going to be the same in another country, right? Right.
exactly, because we're from different parts of the we live in a global village. That is the reality of the world we are living in now. You know, travel lines have crossed and international board. That's the world we live in. It's a global village. And so obesity is a huge driver. Why? Because it creates excess estrogen in the body. Estrogen, fat cells, they produce estrogen. And so that now also comes and inflames the body. Coupled with that, having a lifestyle which, in addition to obesity, as I mentioned, is full of stress, is full of poor sleep because of the stress, is sedentary because maybe you're working too much, you're not moving your body. You quickly see that these are all lifestyle factors. And
Mm.
people often think, well, because it runs in my family, I'm bound to get cancer get as well. But the reality is that in terms of genetic cancers, only about 5, at the very most 10% of cancers are tied to genetics. At the very most. Cancer is a
Wow.
metabolic disease, which means
Yeah.
it's a lifestyle disease.
Yeah. And also, yeah, yeah, that's good. So we we mentioned there was a mention now about birth control, right? And that's like the new thing about it being, you know, it could lead to the C word, right? Is that true? Is that, and why do you think that is? And because now we're in a world where a lot of women have also come out and talked about this, but they were getting pushed, birth control because they had terrible cramps, right? And it does seem to offset some of the pain that they endured during their cycle. If they had like irregular cycles, if they had these swings, apparently birth control seemingly curbs a lot of things. So then how could now this be the same thing that leads to the C word? What do you think of that and why?
Everything we do in medicine is a risk benefit assessment, everything. And so it's very unfair to say to someone, I'm going to put you on a medication and it's going to save your life, frankly. But that's how typically medications are talked about, interventions are talked about, but the potential side effects are not always elaborated upon. So it is true that if someone is having irregular cycles, if you put them on a combined birth control pill, for example, which, just to clarify, is specifically what was studied in this case,
Mhm.
was the combined pill. There's the progesterone only pill, but this was specifically for the combined estrogen progesterone pill, just for my fellow scientists who are listening. Um, the benefit is that for someone who had irregular cycles, it can help to regulate the cycles because now you're literally putting that person's body on, you're forcing it into rhythm with medication, with hormones, with what we call exogenous hormones. So they're coming from out of the body to force that period to occur. Does that now mean the person truly has a period and there's still no underlying root? No. What it means is there was a wound there and you've taken a band-aid and put it on that wound. But what was the root cause that initially created the irregular periods? That actually has not been addressed.
Oh,
It's
okay.
irregular, but you haven't addressed the root cause. And the root cause of most cases of irregular periods is some type of inflammatory state affecting the body, whether it's because the person is dealing with PCOS and they're dealing with some metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance, etc., or it's endometriosis, adenomyosis. The list goes on. There's so many things that can cause it, but it becomes a one size fits all. But that's not always the case. And as I mentioned, it doesn't address the root cause of what really created it, which is inflammation.
So it's just simply that you're inflamed, is what you're saying. If you can fix the inflammation, you've essentially fixed the issue.
Most of the time, that's the case. And you're
Wow.
just reminding me now because I just got a testimonial from a patient last week. She's someone who had had regular periods, kind of went through a stressful time, and her period started to get heavier than usual, which, by the way, is still worth noting and that's worth paying attention to. And I put her on a protocol at Rofi. And long story short, she texted me last week. This was, excuse me, after 4 weeks on the protocol, her periods were now back to normal. Like her next period was fine. So,
So what's one piece of advice that you would give to women out there now that are dealing with chronic, like menstrual pain?
mm, that's a good question. Go see your doctor. Or do you mean, broadly speaking, like what could be, do you mean tied to inflammation?
It could be, right? But really just around, it's like, let's just say a woman comes to you and goes, "Hey, like I'm dealing with like chronic pain. I can't leave the bed. Like it's terrible. I can't seem to get rid of this pain. I can't move. I can't do anything. I don't feel functional. And there's just all this pain around the time of their cycle." What would you recommend?
I know you said one thing, but I think the one thing would be probably do a root cause analysis to figure out what exactly is causing that issue. Because
Mm.
it could be stress related, it could be lifestyle related, it could be nutrition. Most of the time it's nutrition. That's usually the biggest like component to it.
And when you say nutrition, what does that mean?
How they're eating, how they're drinking on a day-to-day basis, right? The lifestyle. For example, many people struggle with hearing this, but dairy causes a lot of inflammation in the body. And
Yes.
by dairy, I don't just mean milk. I think sometimes we forget that butter, cheese, etc., can also be types of dairy that we're consuming on a regular basis. So I think making sure that you eliminate anything that could potentially be inflaming your body. Dairy is one example off the bat is usually what's going to help. Drinking something like hibiscus tea is another way to, it's an antioxidant. So if there's inflammation, the remedy for inflammation is an antioxidant. So it ends up becoming like
Mhm.
a holistic thing. Like, what have I eaten that I now need to remove that's inflammatory? And now, what are the anti inflammatory foods and drinks that I should be having so that I don't have these problems anymore?
Got it. And so and I guess just as we wrap up, there's a lot of this that there's a correlation now too, even with, birth controls. Also, it's helped to keep fibroids either at a smaller, like keep them small or even potentially shrink fibroids. What are your thoughts around that?
So, this is not formal medical advice. This is certainly
Okay.
for educational purposes. That's my disclaimer.
Mhm.
That could help in some cases. The thing I always say to people about fibroids is that if you go the route of going on the pills or in that case, it's kind of doing the same thing. Again, it's kind of forcing the body to say, I'm going to give you exogenous hormones, so I'm going to force you to work and operate in the way I need you to work. Has that, can that help a little bit with slowing down the growth of the fibroids? Potentially, yeah. I'm not going to deny it. But why did the person get the fibroids in the first place? That's where my mind goes.
Yeah. And what if they say something like, now I'm just thinking scenario wise, right? What if someone says, "Oh, well, it's in my family." It's yeah.
Yeah, then the question becomes, why is it in your family? Again, don't get me wrong, there are genetic mutations, especially when we talk about cancer health in general or metabolic health, which are important. BRCA1, BRCA2, if you've heard of those. But I always say this, it only runs in the family because no one stopped it.
Mm,
That's the only reason why most of these
wow.
things run in the family, because that's what I see in my clinical practice. I see people who say, oh, yeah, my grandfather and my father had high blood pressure, and I have it too, or I'm pre hypertensive. But then after 4 to 6 weeks of working together, and that's just the beginning, we're taking them off medication. So, what happened? How is it that just all of a sudden this thing no longer runs in the family?
Right, right. What just happened miraculously. So just because something started with you doesn't mean it ends with you.
Exactly.
That's good.
But it's up to
Well,
you. It's up to you to decide the kind of life you want to have. Whether you're, because I'm learning now that some people are actually okay with taking pills for the rest of their lives.
some people are okay with just being okay, right? We call them steady eddies. Um, well, Dr. Larissa, this wraps up our conversation around tea. This was the a really good conversation to have where we just I think it's just important. Not, if anything, it's just bringing awareness to certain things, and just shedding some light, some insight. So thank you for dropping those gems. Obviously, this wasn't medical advice, just educational purposes, and just we're here to educate and inform, and to help you make an informed decision. So thank you for being a part of the Seed Labs Tea with Dr. Larissa and Chef Dre. And we look forward to hearing and seeing you guys in the next episode.
Thank you, everyone.